All right, so we have another HP crap top. This one is powered by an AMD A9 CPU. I've already installed ChromeOS Flex on it. I'm going to go over how to install Linux applications really quick. But in order for that to work, we need to look at the virtualization settings in the BIOS. So we do that first. So step one, go into the BIOS. Since this is an HP, we're going to turn it on, and I'm tapping escape. There we go. F10. Now, on this particular, and actually let's look at what we're dealing with. AMD A9 9425. These are really weak. This thing is probably less powerful, at least for multi-core, than the A8, than the 10, 11-year-old A8 in the HP Envy. This is a complete turd CPU. This is another one of those HPs where it seems to be built from leftover parts. I did swap out the mechanical drive with an SSD. I've already installed ChromeOS Flex. Now, step one is to make sure that you have your virtualization stuff enabled, which we do. Let's go ahead and exit out. And obviously, if you didn't, you would need to enable that, save the settings, right? I've already done that, but this is what the kind of stuff you're looking for. So let's get into FlexOS. Okay. So let's see if we can do this in a single video. This is going to be boring as fuck, but this is just a really good overview of how this process works. And I think this is realistic because this is the perfect type of device to install this on. Just something that's really, in my opinion, incapable of running Windows properly. Okay, so settings, about Chrome OS. Okay. Now, we need to enable the Linux development environment. And I'm just doing defaults because I'm not planning on installing a whole bunch of stuff. I would think that 10 gigabytes for the container that this runs in would be fine, but your mileage may vary. Now, let this thing do its thing. I have a pretty fast, and amazingly enough, on this crap top, it has decent Wi-Fi, so this should go fast. On sites like Craigslist and OfferUp, you'll see people trying to dump AMD powered, not so much the Ryzen, but like the A series, which are just turd CPUs. And they tend to sit. Anybody who knows is not going to buy them. And I don't recommend being an asshole, but you can usually make an offer, right? And after something has been sitting for a while, a lot of times you can get these things really, really cheap. I do a lot of side work, and a lot of times people just want help, upgrading. So I'll take the hard drives out, and I get a lot of turd devices without hard drives in exchange, right? take their old hard drive out, help them move their data off, and then they just don't want the device, and then I'm left with turds, right? That's another thing too. If you're willing to help someone out, you can probably get some hardware cheap or free. Okay, so now the second part of this example is one of my major complaints with the ChromeOS derivatives is, now there's exceptions. If some of the more powerful late model Chromebooks do support x265, but they get away with that because there is that decode functionality in the hardware. If you're talking about, like the Chromium OS open source project and then like Flex OS, there is no support for x265. So you have to install an actual dedicated media player that's capable of it, such as VLC or MPV. We're going to use MPV in this example because it's lighter weight, and it's, in my opinion, the best fit for a device like this. Okay, so we want to start off by updating our environment. So sudo apt-get update. Okay. Now, I've used Flatpaks also because I've read that the Flatpaks a lot of times are the more current version. And that's not that much difficult either, but this is the least amount of steps to get a media player on Flex OS. That's why I'm doing it. This may not be the best way, but it will work. So sudo apt-get install and then MPV. Now, if you prefer VLC, you would just type VLC instead of MPV. And obviously there's a lot of, your mileage may vary on performance, especially if you're not running an SSD and you have shitty networking. And then on a lot of old hardware, this stuff's going to run slow. Now on the Flatpak, everything seems to be more integrated in a single download because of the way it packages stuff. This process is downloading a lot of dependencies. Just my personal opinion is this method is going to be more prone to error if any one of these dependencies glitches out. I would be thinking that the Flatpak is going to be a more reliable method, but you know what? There's always, your mileage may vary, right? Okay, you know what? Let's just see what happens without a reboot. So we're going to, I have an exFAT formatted Ventoy stick. It's just kind of my universal testing stick with a persistent partition. Let's plug that in. Okay, and we're going to go to the Flex File Manager. And here is my persistent partition. Now, I've done enough tests on comparable hardware, and I've actually previously tested this setup. So I know that it supports x265. I'm not actually going to demo that because I don't have any x265 encoded public domain files. But MPV will support it, and I have tested it. I'll go over that when I'm playing back one of the test files. So these are the same public domain files that I've used in previous videos. Now, we want to open this, and this is especially important with MPV because it doesn't have much of a UI. But even in VLC, trying to navigate from a Linux app to different parts of the file systems isn't always super intuitive. So for obvious reasons, because you're running this in a container, people can get confused, including myself when I was first playing with this. So in my opinion, the easiest way to approach this scenario is to launch the app by association. So in the Windows world, you would do a right click to bring up the context menu for open with, right? The equivalent of that in ChromeOS. Now, if you have a device with a fairly modern touchpad, you're going to do a two-finger click to do that. Now, if for some reason you've turned off the advanced touchpad capabilities, or your device is such a turd that it's operating as an emulated mouse, you would do this by holding down the Alt key and clicking. So Alt plus click is a right click when, like in old mouse compatibility mode. But most of the time, to do a right click, you're going to do a two-finger tap like this. Hopefully. So two-finger tap, open with MPV. You'll see Linux spooling up at the bottom. All right, you get the idea. And there's a minimalistic UI, like if you move over the app, right? So you can full screen, choose audio channels, subtitles, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Let's look at, I've got about a minute left. Trying to fit this into one video.
Now, you see, Miss Dinkelmeyer, that's the way it should be sung. Shall we try it again?
I'll try anything for you, Professor.
Oh, that's fine, fine. If you please, Doctor. Doctor.
Okay, now, when I had tested an A9 previously with x265, the CPU use was getting up near 60% for a 720p Blu-ray rip. I don't think this device is capable of doing 1080p x265, which doesn't matter because this is a poopy subpar display. It's like 1600 by 900. It's a weird resolution anyway, but this is a fairly straightforward method of adding x265 video playback capability to Flex OS. Not too difficult. If anyone cares, I could do the flat pack stuff next. So there you go.